here's where most agents are making mistakes because they're responding to an emotional state with information content. When you respond to panic with data, you don't calm the client. You're increasing frustration, aggravation, because the implicit message that they're receiving from you is, you're not listening. You're not hearing me. A client who doesn't feel heard becomes a client who starts looking for a new agent. In this video, I'm going to show you the Rapport Bridge Technique, the psychological framework for leading difficult clients through volatile markets without losing the relationship, the deal, or your authority. Word matters. Eyes wide open. Now let's see what's really happening here. Your phone rings. It's your best client. The market just moved against them. And they're not calling to ask questions. They're calling to panic. You try to stay calm. You pull up the data. You start explaining the long-term picture, the historical comps, the reason why this correction is just temporary. Whew. And the more you talk, the angrier they're getting. We've been here. I've been here. Because they don't want data right now. They want to know that you understand exactly how this feels. And until you give them that, nothing else you say will be heard or invited. I'm Kariwhitaker, and in this video, I'm going to show you the Rapport Bridge Technique, the psychological framework for leading difficult clients through volatile markets without losing the relationship, the deal, or your authority. So when the market shifts suddenly, as it has been doing, something happens in the brain of every client, experienced or not, that's going to change the conversation entirely. See, the brain's threat detection system activates. The heart rate increases, cognitive flexibility decreases, and the client becomes psychologically incapable of processing complex logical arguments. You've been here before. This is not irrationality. This is just simple biology. Let me explain. And here's where most agents are making mistakes because they're responding to an emotional state with information content. We're not speaking the same language. The client is experiencing fight or flight, and the agent is presenting a spreadsheet. Do you see the mismatch? Of course, there will be resistance. When you respond to panic with data, you don't calm the client. You're increasing frustration, aggravation, because the implicit message that they're receiving from you is, you're not listening. You're not hearing me. A client who doesn't feel heard becomes a client who starts looking for a new agent. Been there, you bet. Now, what you need is this bridge, a specific linguistic protocol that meets them where they are and then walks them someplace, somewhere better. The rapport bridge is going to have 3 structural elements to it: pace, anchor, pivot. So element 1, the pace. You're going to match the client's emotional tempo before you attempt to shift it. Not by agreeing with their fears, by naming it with precision. I can hear that this caught you off guard, and that's completely valid. Pacing, not agreeing with the panic, validating where they're at, the experience they're having. Element 2, the anchor. Create a psychological anchor point that's going to stop the downward spiral. This is a single grounding statement that reconnects the client to their original goal. The reason you came to me in the first place was, state that. That hasn't changed, has it? The anchor brings them back to their own intention. Element 3, the pivot. Once they're anchored, introduce the strategic frame. What's shifted is the environment. Let's talk about what that actually opens up for someone in this position, in your position. The pivot is going to reframe the volatility as context, not catastrophe. This three-part sequence, the pace, the anchor, and the pivot, is the rapport bridge. It works because it follows the natural architecture of how emotional regulation happens in the brain. You're not suppressing the emotion, you're moving through it with them and getting them to move forward strategically, ethically. Let me show you what a full rapport bridge conversation looks like in practice. So you receive the phone call, the client calls, Kari, this is bad. I can't even believe what the market is doing. I think we're going to need to just pull everything, pull it off the market, and we're just gonna, it probably would be best just to wait it out. Now, the typical agent response, and how I've responded in the past too, before I learned all of this, is a reactive response. I understand your concern, but historically, markets always recover, and if we just look at the data from yada, 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 ooh, I'm going to keep that spiral going for them, right? The client's wall goes up. She's not hearing me. She's not listening to me. The wall is up. Now, a rapport bridge response is so very different. They're going to feel heard. And so that looks something like this. I hear you. And this kind of shift is, well, frankly, it's jarring. I mean, especially when you have so much riding on the outcome. It makes sense that your first instinct is to maybe take a pause. Anchor. You came to me because you wanted to blah, 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 blah. Now that goal is still the same, correct? Now, the path to it may look a little different right now, but let's make sure that we are navigating this based on that, not just the headlines of today, right? Now here's the pivot. Can I share what I'm actually seeing in the data that I think is relevant to your specific situation now? Now they say yes, not because you convinced them, because they felt heard and you asked. The bridge is crossed. Now the strategy conversation can actually begin. So once the rapport bridge is crossed, your role is going to shift from validator to navigator. Validator, I hear you, I see you, I get it, and validator to navigator. This is the psychological handoff, the moment where you're going to take back authority and leadership for them. The key is not to rush it. Many agents are going to sense the opening hostility or anger or just victimhood that they're in and immediately flood the client with information. And that is going to undo the bridge. All water is going to pass through. Instead, we want to execute the handoff through a series of micro commitments, micro agreements. So the first, would it be helpful if I showed you specifically what this shift means for your timeline? Would it be helpful? Micro agreement 2. Based on what you just told me about your priorities, here's what I think the 2 best options are. Can I walk you through those now? Micro agreement 3. If both of these still feel like the right direction after you have seen the data, then we'll know, you'll know, you're making a decision from a clear head. Now, does that feel like a good approach for you? Each micro agreement is going to earn those micro yeses, those small yeses, those micro yeses that are going to build momentum, build movement, and momentum produces actual action. So by the end of the sequence, the client is moved from reactive panic, sky is falling, to co-created strategy, calm, grounding, their essential guide, not just the agent. So Here's the thing about volatile markets. They're gonna happen again. Happening around the corner, I think. The agents who retain their best clients through every cycle aren't the ones with the best market data. That's important. They're the ones whose clients trust them enough to call before they begin to panic. So the rapport bridge used consistently is going to build what I call a trust reserve. It's an emotional account that accumulates every time you successfully guide a client through that difficult moment, that difficult moment in time. And when the next market shift comes, because it's gonna, around the corner, that reserve is what keeps them on the phone with you instead of calling around, getting second opinions. The I-Pillar framework, my insight, ignite, and impart, is designed for exactly this kind of long game development. Insight. You now understand why logic fails under stress and how the defensive spiral works. Spiraling out of hand, spiraling down out of control. Ignite. You have a concrete 3-part communication framework: pace, anchor, pivot, that you can now deploy in any volatile moment. Pace, anchor, pivot. Impart. The goal is that this becomes instinct, not a checklist you run through when things are getting hard or difficult, but a reflex that activates the moment you sense that the client is moving into fear mode. That kind of mastery doesn't come from watching one video. It comes from deliberate, repeated practice. Integration. If you've lost a client's trust because the market shifted and you didn't know how to hold the conversation, hear where they were coming from, see where they were, this is what Word Lab is for. Every Wednesday, we run 20 to 30 minute live practice labs where you drill the exact communication frameworks that separate agents who lead to agents who react. We're doing that work together. The rapport bridge, pacing and leading, precision language under pressure. All of it built on my I-Pillar framework: insight, ignite, impart. And for just a few dollars a month, you can join a community of real estate professionals who are done winging it and they're ready to master it, have authority. The link is in the description, I'm sure, and I'll see you Wednesdays, eyes wide open, because once you see it, you can't unsee it.